Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That means with the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. This is Imam Sidney Rahim Sharif, a president of the Islamic Inmates Corrections Association of America. Our topic and subject for today is America's false Caucasian image. I will repeat that, America's false Caucasian image. Islam is a way of life that demands we live our lives as human beings and that we do not allow ourselves to be influenced by false images or false symbols. Now, in America, unfortunately, there are some people who actually think that because they are Caucasian, they own this country. But you do not own America, mister, simply because you're Caucasian. You do not have the right to dictate to America's citizens about how they should manage their lives, simply because you're Caucasian. But that is the message that we're getting from many, many, many people who express this Caucasian arrogance and Caucasian dominance when they speak in terms of America. And I'm going to cite some examples that I find that kind of supports this assertion. Every human being is entitled to medical care in America. Everyone. In any other country, for that matter, every human being is entitled to medical care, whether they can afford it or not afford it. And I find it oddly that in European countries, as we speak, especially those countries that were used to colonize the Americas, they offer their citizens free medical care, free education, and a lot of other things, social services, that Europeans here in America seem to oppose when they are proposed by reasonable thinking people. Reasonable thinking people have proposed over the years that everyone in America should have access to medical care. This has been going, this is not new. However, because we have this arrogance, this Caucasian arrogance, I choose to call it, that says no, we dole out medical care to who we want to have it. And we dole out our drugs to who we want to have it. And at this particular point, we don't like it. And we now really don't like it because now it's being proposed by someone who is not a Caucasian. Now, we might say, hey, wait a minute, you're kind of taking things for granted now, aren't you? No, I'm not. Why is it that you call this effort to kill a law that has already been put in place that says we must have universal health care? But you're saying, no, we don't want this. The American people don't want this. Where does that come from? The American people voted for it and said, yes, we do want it. And they voted the president in who proposed it and led the charge for it. And the Supreme Court said, yes, the people have a right to have it. But we have this hardcore niche of people whom I choose to identify as representing that American false Caucasian image. They have a superior attitude that says we determine who gets what and how much. Consequently, the American people are suffering under this burden of this Caucasian image. It's no accident that less than 10% of the people in America own 95% of the wealth. That's not accidental. And it just so happens that the majority of the people that own 95% or better of the wealth are Europeans. I'll say that again. 95% of the people that own the wealth in America are Europeans. And it seems to me that this European bloc, this Caucasian bloc, is foremost in trying to blunt health care for the American people. Don't you know if 95% of the people own the wealth in this country actually wanted everyone to have health care, it would not be a problem? But because we have this Caucasian image of divine. I mean, you got Caucasians that think that they're gods and they dictate who gets what and who don't get what. And this is why we're talking about that today. Excuse me. President Obama was elected president, and no one knew he was going to be elected president. As a matter of fact, most people in their own little narrow minds, the Caucasian-minded people, had no idea he was going to get elected, but he did. And they're still trying to figure out how that happened. They were so hurt by this occurrence that many of them said, we don't care what he do, we just going to make sure he don't get elected again. Well, praise be to God, we now have universal health care through the efforts, the leadership, and the statesmanship of President Barack Obama. And for some reason, we have this narrow-minded Caucasian image that begins to go against this. You don't find any other people opposing universal health care, but you got a handful of people who have that Caucasian-minded mentality who think they have a right to say, no, we want you folks that ain't got it now to not get it unless we say roll over 3 or 4 times or something to that effect. You're not entitled to it. But I got news for you, Mr. Caucasian-minded people. You do not own America. This country is owned by American people. And if you don't want to go by the Constitution of the United States, which is what you held your hand up and swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States when you were elected into office, then you need to find yourself another country to go to. I remember years ago when African Americans were in the forefront of protesting, demanding civil rights. We had these same Caucasian-minded people say, well, if you don't like what's going on here, leave and go back to Africa. Oh, yes, they said that. As a matter of fact, they got a little boat together and sent some of us over to Africa. This was going back in history. So we see this today. We saw it yesterday, and we're going to continue to object to it. And I hope that people in the Congress and the House of Representatives will get the tensile strength to stand up against this narrow-minded, bigoted, arrogant, Caucasian-minded Caucasian that think he owns this country. You do not own this country, mister, and you do not own the people in it. As a matter of fact, you do not own the wealth of this country. The wealth of this country is owned by the people, and is ran by the people for the people. That's what the Constitution says. So I don't want to belabor the point, but I want those who are conscious, those who are sincere and concerned about the welfare of America, is to realize what has been going on and what will be going on. This is a fight that's never going to end. You're going to always have people who are arrogant enough to think they're better than other people. And it is this Caucasian-minded spirit, this devil-minded spirit, that drives some Caucasians, some people, to think that they are better than others and they got a right to this country, and they just let other people be in here. They just let you happen to be in here. Mr. Mexican, we just let you in here. Mr. Chinaman, we let you in here, but you don't own any of this country and you have no say-so about it. And Mr. African American, above all, you have no say-so about it. Even if you have a president of the United States, that means absolutely nothing to us. But I got news for you, Mr. Crazy Caucasian-minded person. Check yourself out. Look in the mirror. You have to take care of your biological urges just like everybody else. Don't keep tricking yourself. That's why you stay depressed. And people who go along with your program, they depress themselves. So I'm encouraging people in America, be what America says you're supposed to be. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with the right to life, liberty, and happiness. So don't think that you own this country. This country is owned by the American people. And if you American people don't begin to stand up and demand access to this government, which is your government, you're going to always be shaking and wondering whether or not something's going to be happening the next day. So you want to close the government down. We're going to threaten everyone with closing the government down because we don't want health care for everybody. Where did you get that insane idea? And you keep trotting this program out on television in front of the public day in and day out. You make the citizens of this country, you're embarrassing the citizens of this country. So I'm praying, Almighty God, that this message, while it may be abrasive, offensive, but makes sense. You know, we have to keep saying things over and over again. This country belongs to every citizen in this United States. Every citizen in this United States. And we see they're jerking around this immigration concern. Caucasian, that's that Caucasian influence again. They just don't want to come to grips with the fact that they don't own this country. This country is owned by a pluralistic majority of people of every race, ethnicity, and countries that you can find on the face of this earth. America is a unique place. It is a unique place. It is totally different from any other country on the face of this earth. We are blessed to be in this country as its citizens, and we're not going to allow crazy Caucasian-minded people to take us back to the day when lynch mobs and the KKK were in charge. We're not going back there. So just make your mind up now. You can love it or leave it yourself. Or go back up in the mountains and play with your guns or do whatever you do. But we're not going to surrender this country to a bunch of Caucasian-minded people who think that because they were born with a different color skin and eyes and all that stuff, that they have a right to own everybody and manage the people. It's not going to happen. It didn't happen then. If you thought you owned something then, you were deluding yourself. If you owned it then, you'd still have it now. And I wonder why people always say, this is the most powerful person in the world. He's got this kind of power. You have no power. You have no power. Every night you go to bed like everybody else. Allah keeps you sometimes He don't let you come back. So where's your power? If you got power, why are you afraid you're going to lose it? Allah, God, has the power. You have no power. People understand that. You can respect people for the position that they have in society and for their worth, but that's about all. They're no better than you simply because they have more dollars in the bank. If it wasn't for the United States government putting their money, putting the taxpayers' money into the banks, they would have no power, no authority. Try to figure things out. Ants got more sense than human beings when they don't obey what God has given them the right to obey. Obey, behave like human beings. Ants manage their business better than we do. They don't have problems, divisiveness, and arguments with each other. They take care of ant business. Bees do the same thing. And they're not concerned about race, ethnicity, political parties, Democrats, Republicans. That's a bunch of crap. They use all these terms to divide people and to keep people on a treadmill like those gerbils you see running around in that little thing, and every once in a while you give it a little water and a little food. Human beings, you're not gerbils. You're supposed to think for yourself. And this is why my topic for today was dealing with this false American Caucasian image that is constantly contaminating and preventing forward motion in our progress as a nation. Again, I thank you for allowing me to come into your home, and I want you to be sure and tune in on our program every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on channel 24, Cox 24, Cox 20, and Comcast 774. Cox 20, Comcast 74, Sundays 5:30 p.m. and Wednesdays 7 p.m. Thank you so much, and may God continue to bless and guide us all to a better life. Amen.